Monster Hunter Wilds is one of the first major games released in 2025. Announced way back in December of 2023, Capcom's next-generation follow-up to the record-breaking success that was Monster Hunter World set expectations very high amongst fans. But today, it seems like most Monster Hunter fans would rather go back to World, Rise, or even Generations Ultimate. As we approach the back half of 2025, what is going on with Monster Hunter Wilds? Rolling back the clock, the release of Monster Hunter World back in 2018 saw Capcom officially enter a brand new era of success they had never seen before. Today, Monster Hunter World remains Capcom's best-selling game of all time, sitting at roughly 29 million copies sold, and the series is more popular than it ever has been. The ripples of Monster Hunter World could be felt in the first few months of 2025 leading up to Monster Hunter Wilds. Following beta tests, folks were really excited to get their hands on the game, if not also a bit concerned for the state and well-being of their base PlayStation 5 consoles that would be running the title. But the audience seemed ready and hungry for a quote-unquote mainline Monster Hunter title to truly succeed World and get the more recent console-leaning audience back after the more handheld-leaning Monster Hunter Rise, and Wilds was positioned to deliver that. Upon launch, the game reviewed exceptionally well, hitting an 89 on OpenCritic, with folks praising the game for once again being an approachable entry in the long-running series, featuring great combat, although it did have some performance issues. We ended up giving the game an 8 out of 10, calling it, quote, the most accessible game in the franchise to date, end quote. That very sentiment was a little bit divisive for some longtime fans who, ever since World even, felt the series was losing some of its core identity, its friction, and that special sauce which makes Monster Hunter, Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter Wilds, even more so than other recent entries, really streamlined the game, taking almost all the tracking and hunting out of Monster Hunter. From the jump, players hop on their sacred and can literally be autopiloted to their target, reducing the need to learn maps, learn routes, or truly scout your areas. The scout flies are barely even a mechanic in this one compared to World. The open world nature of Wilds didn't really help with this criticism either, as every single biome needs to connect to one another. The series' first open world map ended up kind of blending together a bit too much. Because the map of Wilds needs to make some semblance of sense, there's nothing as distinct or as striking as something like the Coral Highlands from World in this new map. Now, while these criticisms mostly came from longtime fans or folks who were really into Monster Hunter World and the friction that game provided, they were also acknowledged as almost concessions that came from making the game more palatable to a wider audience, and that translated to sales. After the extreme goodwill that Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter Rise provided for the Monster Hunter franchise, along with Capcom really never missing over the past several years, many players, new and old, showed up big time for launch, leading to the game hitting 8 million sales in its first 3 days. Once again, it seemed Monster Hunter had shown up in a big way. So why is it mostly negative and mixed on Steam as of August of 2025? Well, firstly, the game is, to be frank, unoptimized. 6 months following its release, the title has barely seen any meaningful updates that impact its performance, stability, or how hefty it is when running it on even a mid-range or upper mid-range PC. The game's current recommended specs on Steam ask for an Intel i5 or AMD Ryzen 5 series CPU, and an NVIDIA RTX 2060 Super or AMD Radeon RX 6600 series. And that's just to get the game running with medium settings at 1080-60, with frame generation on. PlayStation 5 has also seen its fair share of issues with the PlayStation 5 Pro version of the game, leaving a bit to be desired, and me personally, I'm playing on what I think is a respectable PC build, a Ryzen 5 7600 and a 6750 XT, and at best running the game on medium, it still sounds like my rig is prepping for takeoff. Compare that to Monster Hunter World, or even Monster Hunter Rise, which managed to look great on the Nintendo Switch of all things. And you have a fan base who came into this series with the recent entries that can run very well on even some lower end PCs, delivering them a game that is so resource intensive that it doesn't even work right on a PlayStation 5 Pro. Yeah, it's not great for people that are just fans of Monster Hunter that wanted another Monster Hunter game. But Monster Hunter's presentation has never really been a stellar, groundbreaking thing. So for many people, myself included, a lot of us would be able to look past some performance issues if the content was there. Guess what's not there? To be fair, I was honestly very pleased with the campaign for Monster Hunter Wilds. The story is its own thing, but treating low rank as this breakneck roller coaster-like introduction to some awesome looking monsters, some great set piece fights, and at times really presenting a true spectacle if you tilt your head and squint your eyes. But having cleared the base game in 20 hours or so, and then being met with not much in the way of interesting high rank content, it led me to put the game down for a bit and move on to something else. For really hardcore hunters who hopped off the Wilds low rank roller coaster, quickly cleared the high rank quests on offer, they ended up leaving Wilds altogether to go back to already content complete entries in the series to get their fix, like Monster Hunter World and Rise. Most shockingly, there was even a sizable wave of players that picked up their Nintendo Switch consoles again to grab the definitive edition of a 3DS game in Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, and ended up finding a lot more enjoyment there than they did in Wilds. And for a 1/7 of the cost, because that complete package is frequently $10 on the eShop. But maybe this great migration to Monster Hunter games of old is just evidence that Monster Hunter High Rank is usually at its best when it comes to getting title updates and the eventual G-Rank expansions. Generations Ultimate, World, and Rise all have a wealth of that to go around, where Wilds was lacking around launch because the game had just come out. 6 months out, and we have had 2 title updates so far, adding monsters like Mizutsune and the greatly anticipated Gathering Hub, which many players were questioning where it was at launch. Title Update 3 was set to release at the end of September, and according to the original roadmap, would bring a new monster as well as new 9-star level difficulty and a new talisman reward system. But those latter 2 features have now been released in an update that hit mid-August, which may also have caused the game to crash more frequently for some players. In a letter from the director, the team expressed apologies to players who have been having trouble with the game on PC. Looking ahead, following the new monster still scheduled to drop around the initial Title Update 3 window of end of September, the letter also says that the team will begin to address CPU performance and stability in the winter with Title Update 4. But in the meantime, August will also have a collaboration with Fender. For some reason. You know, the guitar brand. They spent several minutes of their summer showcase on this. After that, it's a bit less clear currently, but speculation has already been set on what the eventual G-Rank expansion will be for Wilds. For World, it was Iceborne. For Rise, it was Sunbreak. And both these additions truly elevated their respective base games to new levels amongst fans, making Rise and World some of the most beloved entries in the series. So hopefully, the same will be able to be said about Wilds, but let's also just hope that Capcom has some beefy optimization patches planned in there beyond just new monsters. So how do you feel about Monster Hunter Wilds this far removed from launch and all the hype of that initial window? Were you happy with this entry in Capcom's epic series in the end, or have you been left wanting and exploring Monster Hunter games of the past? Let us know where you stand on Monster Hunter Wilds today and what you hope to see from the game tomorrow. But in the meantime, be sure to stay tuned to Game Rant for more on Capcom and the world of gaming.